Development of fish and fur industry in Canada. Canada is the second largest country in the world, but has about the same population as the state of California, which is about 4% of Canada's size. This is because the north of Canada, with its harsh Arctic and subarctic climates, is sparsely inhabited. Most Canadians live in the southern part of the country. Not in proportion to its low-density population, Canada has impressive reserves of natural resources. And, until recent years, much of Canada's wealth has been generated through the extraction and processing of these resources, of which the most exploited two are fish and fur. Canada is one of the world's largest exporters of fish and seafood. Its commercial fishing dates back nearly 500 years and has been a mainstay of its economic life for many years. Over 75% of the country's catch is exported, which is just over 1% of the total value of goods exported. Canadian fish and seafood are sold to many countries, but the primary markets are the United States, Japan, and the European Union. In 2003, exports of Canadian fish to the United States accounted for 72% of total fish exported. With the increased use of larger, more sophisticated boats, the industry once had a period of rapid booming, but declined recently as the number of fish had decreased. Cod, one of the most important exports from the Atlantic coast once, is a typical case. In the century before 1950, fishers worked in small boats using hand-operated equipment and took about 250,000 metric tons a year from the Atlantic waters, off Newfoundland and Labrador. After 1950, Canadians increased their catching capacity by using larger, longer-range vessels with new nets, powered equipment, and electronic navigation. Modern European vessels also moved in. In 1968, the northern cod catch peaked at 800,000 metric tons. This figure surged to 1.32 million metric tons in 2004. A number so high as to be driving the fish to near extinction. In 1977, therefore, Canada extended its fishing zone to 200 nautical miles, 230 miles, or 370 kilometers, to protect stocks. Other conservation measures and stricter enforcement were implemented to protect small fish and spawning stocks in 1992. These measures, however, were proved insufficient, leading to a total collapse of the fishery and the imposition of an unprecedented 2-year ban in 1993 on the commercial fishing of cod in the northern fishery, extending from southern Labrador to the northern Grand Banks. The fishing ban was later extended indefinitely because of the near extinction of the fish. The fur industry, on the other hand, is an area of commerce that encompasses farming or trapping certain fur-bearing animals, processing their skins for sale to manufacturers of fur garments, and marketing finished garments to retail outlets. It has also exerted great influence on the history of Canada. Much of the pre-Confederation history revolves around the competition between the French and British for control of the profitable fur trade. When French explorer Jacques Cartier visited eastern Canada in 1534, he was greeted by members of the Minkap Nation holding fur-bearing animal skins, which they seemed to want to trade. Even at this early date, long before the settlement of Jamestown and Quebec, Visiting fishermen from France, England, and Spain had been bringing copper pots, glass beads, iron knives, and axe heads to Northern America, and bartering them for furs. For the next 300 years, the fur trade would drive the exploration of North America, shape relations with the indigenous people, and affect the history of empires. In recent years, Canadian fur trappers and farmers have come under increasing pressure from foreign competition. By the late 1990s, the Scandinavian countries produced 68% of the world's supply of peltries. The Commonwealth of Independent States, CIS, supplied 13%, the United States 5%, China 3%, Poland 3%, and Canada 2%. Retail sales of furs in the United States grew from less than $400 million in the early 1970s to $1.8 billion in the late 1980s, and then remained between $1.8 billion and $2 billion annually. The fur industry has also been hurt by protests from animal rights activists and the increasing popularity of artificial fur.